Hello, this is welcome to my channel. Today we are going to have a quick overview about the formulas menu in Excel. Please do watch the other videos for the other menu options just to have a clear overview about everything that you can do with Excel, and even that we are going to touch some very quick options that are related to different menu options. The focus will be on the formulas menu in Excel. So let's get started. And to see that the very first option that we have here is the insert function. And if we click on the insert function, what we have is an overview about the most recently used formulas, or all the formulas, or the formulas by category. So we have a quite large range of formulas that we can click on one time. And then we will also have an overview, a short description about what that formula does. Exactly the same thing that we see here in this pop-up, we can also have it at any time. Let's go to home, and then if I click here, I have exactly the same pop-up. So at any time you can use this this option, and if this formula bar is not visible, you can go to view. So you can go to view and double check if the formula bar is ticked, and then it will appear here. So in the insert function you have the overview, then you have some, let's call them shortcuts that you can use, and the first shortcut is that auto sum. If you remember from the home menu options, we saw that one already with a couple of options that are present. So exactly the same thing that we have here, we have also in the formulas. And let's say that we want to put here the total. We want to use this auto sum for the total, and then we want also to create an average for the ratings. But before doing that, just be sure that we are making the right calculation. Let's freeze the very first row, and then we can make our calculations. And to freeze that row, we will select the following row that we have, and then go to view, go to freeze panes, and click on the freeze pane or freeze top row, whatever you prefer. I will click on freeze panes, and then the very first row will remain frozen. And now what I can do is to go to my formulas, and then put here a sum, and I will have an automatic sum for that specific range. If I want to create an average of the ratings, I can click on the average, and I can see that is 54. If we want to double check, we can go to the first one, press on Control Shift down arrow, then let the control button off and keep press Shift and up arrow, just not to include the total, and we can see that we have exactly the same amount here, 407,731. If the sum is not showing, you can simply right click on that taskbar, Excel taskbar, and double check if you have the sum ticked here. And the same for the averages. Moving ahead with what we have those shortcuts. As I mentioned, we have the recently used formulas, we have the financial formulas, logical, and so on and so forth. And if you go with the mouse and you create a sort of hover, you can see a short description of what that formula does. So as we saw in that pop-up window, you can also have a quick overview by simply going with the mouse to hover that option. So you can have some support from Excel as well. Then we have the logical formulas, the if, the false, the or sentences, so you have a quite of diversity. The text formulas, which are related to concatenating text, so linking test, extracting tests, connecting tests, so everything related to text. And then for the text date and time, you might wonder how can we have a formula for the date and time, because we know which is the date and the current time. But if we want to use it and create a sort of a clock in Excel, what we can do, I give you a very short example, and then for the dedicated videos you will see each one of the formulas more into the detail. Let's go here and pick from the date and time the now function, press OK, and we can see now which is the current date and current time. And if we want to know quickly which is the week number for this specific date, what we can do, we can go in the cell where we want to populate with the formula with, and then go to, for instance, week num, which stands for week number. And here for the serial number or the date, we can take our date, and then the return type, let's say a standard week number type, and press OK. And we can see that it's the week number 47 of the year. So those will be examples of how you can use the formulas related to date and time. For the lookup and reference, it's related to getting the data from different references, to matching the data. So everything related to data source, it's available in lookup and references. Then for maths and trigonometry, you have them all here, and more functions, you have additional criteria that organizes statistical engineering or other types of formulas. So that would be an overall view of the formula bar for the function library. And now let's move ahead with the defined names. What are the defined names? I have in this table different years. So I have 2015, 17, and 16 for cells, but let's say that I'm currently working with the same table, dynamic table. Why or how do I know that it's a dynamic table? It's because if I get outside the table, the menu disappears. If I go within the table, I have the table design, and I can see that this is table 14th. So that's a dynamic table, but again, we will have a dedicated video for that one. And then if the table remains the same, so I have always the same data and constantly working on the 2015 cells. And instead of taking that range from A2 to K26, I can define it with the name. And let's say that my name would be 2015 cells data. And the range is this one. If I didn't selected the range previously, what I can do is simply to do it right now, and then click on this sign and press OK. And now I will have, sorry, I started with a number that's not correct, sales data 2015. OK. And now what I can have here in my name manager that consolidates everything, I have sales data 2015. I can double click on that. I can see which is my range, change the range. So now what I can do, it's easily use it in a formula. So let's make a partial formula and say we have an if statement, if sales data 2015, and now I have the range selected by its name. So the defined names, the name ranges, are in fact labels that you can put to references just to be able to faster identify data, and instead of taking ranges for, in our case, from A2 to K26, to have the label and then to continue with your formula. So this is why it's useful to have those ranges named. You can use them in a formula, as we saw here. I have all the names that I defined so far, and we can create from a selection. And that would be exactly what we have under the define name menu option. Then for my formula auditing, let's add another formula and let's play with an if statement. And please do watch the if formula dedicated video. So today will be only an exercise, and then we will continue in the other videos with what we have under the if formulas. So let's say that if this value is higher than 3000, then I want to have more than USD 3000, closing quotes. I put the quotes just to mention that here I have a text. If it was number, I would have not used the quotes, but I want to return as a text. If it's not more than 3000, then I'm adding again the quotes, less than USD 3000, closing quotes, closing parentheses, and pressing enter. And I can see that 5,886 is higher than 3000. So what I will do, I will scroll down the formula. Sorry, scroll it from here, right? So let me go until here. And what I can see is that it's less than 3000. Okay, how much? 2,427. Good. I have less than 3,000. 2,429. So now I have a quick overview about what is more or less than 3,000. But if I want to double check that formula, what I can do is to trace the precedents. So from where this formula is taking the data? From the cells. Okay, and that's exactly what the trace precedents is doing. So this arrow is not a graphical arrow, is not as we saw in the insert menu when we wanted to add a shape, is not is not like this one, manually created. No, that would be a graphical element. Here we have the relationship between the data and the formula. If we want to eliminate that arrow, we can simply click on remove arrows. If we want to see an information, a data in a cell, we can trace dependence, and to see to what that data is depending to is this formula, if statement that we just done, and also is part of the sum that we created. So the trace dependence is showing to which kind of calculation, which kind of formula we are using that specific data cell reference. We can remove the arrows, and that's it. If we want to turn that result into the initial formula, of course, we can see it here, but again, we can also click on show formulas, and then what will happen, everything that we put, the formulas will show as formulas, not the final results. So if you have any kind of error, you need to double check a document, you can simply click on show formulas, and the formulas will show as they are. So I'm clicking back to show formulas, I'm returning to the end result, and here from error checking, I can check if I have any error. So if an error occurs for a formula, you will have a result for error checking. And if you want to evaluate a formula, you can click wherever you have that formula, click on evaluate, and that will take, this is your formula. This is the calculation that I made. It was 5,886 more than 3,000. This is what you put. Then this is true. So this is the reason for which I'm putting more than 3,000. So it's simply evaluating your data based on those that kind of information. If you are constantly tracking, let's say that we are still tracking the 2015 data and we want to see if any changes occur, then we can add them to that watch window and to see whenever something changes to that data set. If this is a critical data that we work with and we constantly want to watch it. Then for the calculation, what we have is the calculations options, which can be automatic for the formulas, but not for the data tables, or manual. Why would you like to have the manual calculation? let's imagine that you have 10, 20 sheets workbook where you have a lot of formulas, really complex formulas with multiple criteria, if, then, or, and so on and so forth. And you have so many formulas that Excel is using all your computer resources to calculate them constantly, and your Excel might freeze because your computer is out of resources. Then you might select the manual calculation, and this means that if I'm putting manual, let's say that I'm changing this to 120, and as you can see, nothing happens. Why? Because the calculation is manual. I could click on calculate now, and then it will be calculated. If not, Excel lets your data as it is without using resources, without calculating everything. So if I'm putting here 10,000, again, nothing will happen. And then I can also click on calculate sheet, and it will calculate only the current active sheet. So this is actually what we have. One quick note that I can add is that for the formulas, you need always to think about what is actually needed and how you can link the formulas in the simplest possible way, just to avoid Excel using more resources than your PC, than your machine actually has. So that was the quick overview about the formulas menu in Excel. Thank you all for watching. Please do like that video, subscribe to my channel, and have a perfect day ahead. Thank you. See you soon.